Hello, Jagged here again. Today I wanted to go over my minion build and how we went about perfecting it from some of the previous footage you might have seen in my retrospective. We were using Blight a lot, we used Decompose through leveling up, but through a lot of the gameplay I have made some changes and some little tweaks here and there that kind of get it almost to this point of feeling pretty perfect in a sense. So I want to go over with how I have it set up here, and we'll have a link for this in the description below so you guys can follow it at your own leisure. There's some changes that need to be made. This link will always be available, and you'll always be able to click on it. I will be adding shortly a leveling process of selecting your talent points, and there will be all my notes on game's playstyle and what each slot needs for their gear. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about some of our decisions here. So we got the armor aspects, and we're starting off with increasing our maximum number of skeletal warriors. This is important because this allows us to have more chances to spawn corpses with our reapers, as we are taking upgrade 2, which makes it so the reapers have a 15% chance to carve the flesh off an enemy and forming a corpse. It's going to be a battery for us, and it's going to be super important that we are doing this very, very often. The next is a more defensive aspect. You'll see this on pretty much every build, I think, for quite some time. This is the aspect of disobedience, and it gives you stacking armor. Armor is commonly known as one of the best way to get defenses in the game right now. Until resistances are fixed, a lot of other creators have touched on the resistance debacle, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but essentially you pretty much want this aspect. You want to try to stack it up as much as possible through Bone Spear and Corpse Tendrils, and then just maintain that through using those abilities. With the aspect of reanimation, this gives your minions 30% increased damage if they've been alive for 10 seconds, and with this build they're pretty much never going to die. Sometimes they will. Fire Enchanted can be quite tricky to deal with, but for the most part your minions are always going to be alive. We have Protecting Aspect here. This could also be replaced with Temerity and a Scythe, but I feel Protecting Aspect is really good because it allows you that invulnerability from a one-shot. You're not going to get one hit by pretty much anything with this as long as it's not on cooldown, and it kind of gives you a little bit of wiggle room to play with. We're taking the Coldbringer aspect on the boots because this buffs their damage up just enough to where they're kind of competitive with the Bone Mages. The Bone Mages do a lot more, but this does help out, and it gives massive CC areas. Everything is going to be frozen, and you're going to be having a good time with this. We're taking a two-handed sword or two-handed scythe pretty much all the time, and we're putting the corpse tendrils on here. This acts as a different way of applying crit chance and crit strike to your minions. It seems like they're getting the full value out of this, and the crit damage is being applied to the enemies, so it's almost like the vulnerability debuff but for critical damage, and this scales tremendously. You pretty much always want to have this on any Necromancer build right now, from what I'm seeing, and it's almost imperative that you put it on a two-handed weapon, as it takes the bonuses and doubles them on that two-handed weapon. You could take a scythe if you feel like you need some healing, and you could take a two-handed sword if you feel like you need some more damage. Moving over to the jewelry slots, we have two more skeletal mages. Well, this isn't actually reading correctly. When you put it on the amulet, you get 50% increased bonus to whatever your aspect goes on to. This is actually going to give us a third mage. So we're going to bring our mages up to 6, which then gives us a total of 13 minions with this build, and it's going to be pretty juicy with this next item. This next item is the Ring of Mendon. This takes this build to the next level. This makes it so that every time you lucky hit, you have a chance to empower all of your minions, all 13 of them, to cause the next attack to explode for an amount of physical damage. I will be putting up a ring here for you to see. This ring will deal about 15 or 16,000 damage, as you can see from the ring that I have displayed. And that, stacked on top of all the multipliers we're getting with this build, is going to make it hit anywhere between 1.5 and 2 mil a hit for all 13 of your minions. It is insane to watch the whole screen explode. The last thing we have is kind of a free aspect. This can be anything you really want. You can feed into Lucky Hit and get more essence regen, which might be good. I like this because it's a surefire way to get everything to be vulnerable, and it allows us to take blood orbs for corpse tendrils, giving us more damage and more healing when we get to the Paragon boards. You always want emeralds in your weapons. Everything's vulnerable. Right now, vulnerable is too good to not focus on. Getting damage reduction while ground control is very good. Pretty much makes you immune to damage when you get CC'd. It's about 40% overall damage reduction, and it saved my life so many times. We have skulls in our jewelry, giving us more armor, because as we mentioned with the aspect of disobedience, the more armor, the better. Our skills are Ray Skeleton, Corpse Tendrils, Golem, Blood Mist, Bone Spear, and Decrepify. And just for completion's sake here, show you the Reaper upgrade. We're taking the Cold Mage to gain Essence. And you can take either the Vulnerability for the Golem, or you can take Bone or a tank Golem and taunting everything. Going over the skill tree, these are just 2 filler points. Pretty much need to take 2 points here. You can put them on whatever your favorite skill is, and then you want to maximize your use of Bone Spears because we will be casting this a lot, so it's good to have points in it. And these 4 points can't really be placed anywhere else where it's super helpful. Taking Blood Mist to generate corpses, and to give us an unstoppable immunity. We need this for survivability. This comes in clutch and hardcore modes, and with the corpse being left behind, it always gives us a way to revive some of our minions should they be falling at any point. Always going with Skeletal Warrior Mastery. This is how we are mainly generating essence. Small damage bump after consuming a corpse. This is why we're taking Decrepify, because we have a lucky hit to get our cooldowns back. We want our cooldowns to be up at all times so we can spam them. A nice little buff for amplified damage. Massive damage for our mages, so we have to take this one. We're just putting a few points into Corpse Tendrils just to have access to the move. This will generate the blood orbs for us. We're putting points into Decrepify over Corpse Tendrils because we get the massive cooldown reduction, and this doesn't hit very hard anyways. This is just a buffer, and this is extra damage reduction. We're getting some extra life on our Golem. These are kind of free points. Golem is only here for vulnerability or taunting, so sometimes the life is nice, but the Golem is pretty beefy. He doesn't ever really die ever. And then we're going hard into our minions. Now, as you're leveling, I would recommend maxing out Death's Defense first to add a little survivability to your minions, followed up by maxing Bonded and Essence. And I would recommend starting with 1 point here and maxing this, coming back here, and then getting your damage. I know people don't like Kalan's Edict. They say that it's not up very often. I have found that if you learn to play far back, since you need to be standing near your mages anyways, that it does come back. It does come back quite a bit, and it's just enough attack speed bonus between this and Inspiring Leader to where you don't need to focus on attack speed in your gear, and that's going to come in great later because we can focus on more damage or more defense in some things like our amulet. I'm not going to go over every detail of the Paragon board. We have it all laid out here for you. It's been min-maxed several times. And I believe this is the final version I would like to have out and publish to everyone. So just give it a once over and look, follow what we got here. Try your best to follow the routes to unlock this mage glyph first. And Dead Razor as well. These are the 2 key ones, and everything else is supplementary. I have some good notes and a breakdown for you so that you can go through and look at all our desired stats for every piece, and even saying to recommend a sword. So hopefully this kind of answers some of your questions about how you might be able to go about playing Summoner Necromancer. We have some early game tips, giving you an idea of how to swap to bone mages if you prefer them, like I do. I did the cold mages for this build to be published because cold mages are much easier, and that last aspect doesn't play too much weight into anything. You can put the Blood Getters aspect on Coldbringer, where the Coldbringers are, and you can have another defensive aspect in your helmet. So that's not a big deal, but it is up to you. So, do appreciate you all stopping by, taking a look at how we have designed our minion build. The next video coming up is going to be a hardcore Necromancer, where we make some changes, but for the most part, it's about the same. The blood mist gets you out of all the dangerous situations. The Ring of Mendeln is going to destroy everyone, and if you don't have a Ring of Mendeln, it's not the end of the world. The mages are absolutely nukes. They nuke everything. They will be your bread and butter for quite some time until you get this ring. And then when you get this ring, you will start to see the screen explode. And I would just like to say as well, if you like the content that you are seeing, make sure you like the video, subscribe for more content, and check me out over on Twitch. We'll be streaming to multiple platforms soon, but right now I do have Twitch set up. The link is in the description. Thank you again for watching, and have a great day.